The storm that night was unlike anything I'd ever seen. Rain hammered the windows, wind howled through the cracks, and thunder shook the walls of my small home. I thought it would be just another lonely night, my little boy asleep in the next room, and silence filling the spaces my heart still couldn't. But then, a knock at the door shattered it all. When I opened it, I froze. Standing there, soaked to the bone, trembling, was her, my boss, my CEO. The woman I only ever saw in control, powerful, untouchable. And yet that night, in the storm's fury, she looked fragile, vulnerable. And I had no idea the secret she carried would change my life forever. Before that night, my life was simple, almost painfully predictable. I was a single dad, raising my son in a quiet neighborhood, working hard to keep food on the table and a roof over our heads. My world revolved around him-bedtime stories, scraped knees, and the kind of laughter that reminded me why I kept going, even when loneliness pressed down like a weight. At work, things were different. My boss, our CEO, was the kind of woman who commanded a room the moment she walked in. Sharp suits, sharper eyes, and a presence that made even the most confident men stumble. To me, she wasn't just my superior. She was untouchable, living in a world far above mine. We spoke only when necessary, and even then, I kept my words careful, measured. She was power personified, and I was just one of the countless employees in her shadow. That's why seeing her on my doorstep that night felt unreal. The storm outside was merciless, lightning flashing across her pale face, her hair plastered to her cheeks. She looked nothing like the CEO who sat behind a gleaming desk. She looked human, frightened, exhausted. "Car broke down," she murmured, her voice trembling. No signal. I didn't know where else to go. I let her in without hesitation. She stepped into my modest living room, glancing around at the toys scattered on the floor, the photos of me and my son taped unevenly to the walls. She looked strangely out of place, like a queen forced to sit inside a peasant's cottage. Yet there was something in her eyes that night, something I hadn't seen before. A crack in the armor. And though I didn't know it yet, that crack hid a secret that would tear open both our lives. The storm raged on outside, but inside my home the silence felt even louder. She sat on the edge of my worn-out couch, her hands clasped tightly, her soaked clothes clinging to her frame. I moved around awkwardly, handing her a towel, offering tea, anything to fill the heavy air between us. It felt strange having my CEO, the woman who terrified boardrooms, sitting here in my small living room with rain dripping from her hair. Her eyes, usually so sharp and commanding, were soft now, almost uncertain. For the first time, she wasn't the woman behind the desk. She was just a person. My son stirred from his room and padded sleepily into the living room. The moment her eyes landed on him, something shifted in her expression. She smiled a real, unguarded smile and knelt down to his level. "Hi there," she whispered, her voice gentle in a way I had never heard before. He grinned back, showing her his favorite toy car. For a moment, the storm seemed far away, and she didn't look like my CEO anymore. She looked like a mother. But as quickly as the warmth came, it faded. When my son returned to bed, her gaze hardened again, though not toward me. It was as if she was fighting with herself. Her hands trembled when she reached for the tea, her shoulders stiff, her eyes drifting toward the window, as though she wished the storm would swallow her whole. I wanted to ask her why she really came here. Surely she had other options. Friends, luxury hotels, drivers at her beck and call. Why my doorstep? Why now? But the words caught in my throat. Instead, I watched her carefully, searching for the answer she wouldn't give. Later, as thunder cracked and the lights flickered, she finally spoke. "Do you ever feel," she whispered, staring at the floor, "like the life everyone sees? Isn't the life you're really living?" The question hit me harder than I expected. I thought of my own life, of the nights I spent lying awake, wondering how I'd ended up raising my son alone, wondering if anyone truly saw the exhaustion behind my smile. "Yes," I admitted quietly, "every day." She looked at me, then really looked tan for a moment. I saw her walls lower. Her eyes glistened, but she blinked it away quickly. Still, the heaviness in the room told me there was more. Something she hadn't said. Something she was afraid to say. And then it came. A slip. A whisper meant more for herself than for me. "I didn't just come here because of the storm," she murmured, almost inaudible. My chest tightened. I didn't press her, not yet. But the way her voice cracked, the way her hands shook, it was clear. She was carrying a secret. One that had nothing to do with broken cars or thunderstorms. And whatever it was, I knew it had the power to change everything. The storm outside seemed to grow wilder the moment she finally broke. Her hands shook so violently she set the tea down before spilling it. Her breath uneven, her gaze fixed on the floor like she couldn't bear to look at me. "I've built my entire life on control," she whispered, her voice so raw it barely sounded like hers. "Every decision, every deal, every step I've done it alone. People think power makes you untouchable, but it doesn't. It just makes you lonelier." Her words cut through me, but what came next nearly stole the air from my lungs. "I'm not just a CEO," she said, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I'm a mother, and I've been hiding my son from the world, from everyone, Evan, from the people I work with. His father walked out before he was born. He doesn't know him, doesn't want to. I've been raising him in secret, terrified that if anyone found out, they'd see me as weak, that they'd use him against me." I froze, my heart pounding. All this time, the woman I thought had everything, the power, the control, the perfect image, was fighting the same battles I fought every single day. Sleepless nights, endless worry, the crushing weight of raising a child alone. For the first time, I saw her not as my CEO, but as a mirror. Another parent clawing her way through survival, carrying scars she never let anyone see. She buried her face in her hands, her voice breaking. "I didn't come here because of the storm. I came because I didn't know where else to go, because I couldn't hold it together anymore." And in that moment, as the storm rattled the walls around us, I realized her secret wasn't weakness. It was the kind of strength most people could never understand. And it was the very thing that tied our broken lives together. The storm eventually passed, but inside my house, something had shifted forever. She sat there with her secret laid bare, and for the first time, the powerful woman I thought I knew was gone. In her place was someone real, flawed, hurting, and human. I didn't say much at first. What words could I offer a woman who had carried so much on her shoulders, silently, for so long? Instead, I simply sat beside her. My hand brushed hers, not as an employee comforting a boss, but as one single parent, recognizing another. She didn't pull away. We talked until the thunder faded into a distant hum. She told me about the nights she cried alone in her penthouse, terrified the world would discover the child she loved more than anything. She admitted how exhausting it was to wear a mask of perfection, how the image of CEO had buried the woman inside, and I shared pieces of myself tooth the ache of losing my partner. The struggles of raising a boy who asked questions I sometimes didn't know how to answer. By the time dawn broke, we weren't just a boss and her employee anymore. We were two souls stripped bare by life, finding comfort in each other's honesty. When she finally left that morning, the world outside was calm, the air fresh, as if the storm had washed something clean. She turned back at the door, her eyes softer than I had ever seen them. "Thank you," she whispered. And I knew she wasn't just thanking me for shelter. Her secret hadn't changed the way I saw her, had changed the way I saw myself. Maybe we were both stronger than we realized. Maybe storms didn't come to destroy us, but to reveal who we really were. And I couldn't help but wonder if two broken parents could find each other in the wreckage of their storms. Could that be the beginning of something neither of us expected?